Well, good morning, and as you heard, I'm Cynthia Crimmins, and I'm the director of the Center for Academic Innovation at York College of Pennsylvania, and it's my privilege to talk to you today about an attempt to move faculty development toward measuring, actually impacting and improving student learning. And we created a teaching academy that we think makes that connection, and so I'll be describing that to you today. I've started leading faculty development and assessment initiatives about 6 years ago in earnest, and kind of the neat thing about that was that I was doing both, the assessment and the faculty development. So I was able to connect the topics and themes of the faculty development to the findings that we had in our assessment reports, the needs that the faculty had. And I had a lot of questions. There's a lot out there. It was pretty overwhelming. What are the most effective pedagogies? What motivates faculty to try new things? What does it mean to be a good teacher? And so on. And again, that big overarching question, is the faculty development leading to improve student learning? That was the big one. So like any good faculty developer, we did a great deal. We had workshops and faculty learning communities. We had guest speakers. We had retreats. We had on-campus institutes like Camp Teach and Learn. Some of my best mentors are in this room, and I stole their best stuff. And then I diligently recorded the faculty engagement in these, with these resources and surveyed them. Their perception, did they think they were learning anything? Were they trying new things in their classes and so on, and what were they finding? But I still wasn't really able to see or have them tell me that it was leading, all of these efforts were leading to improve student learning. So I was thinking about if there was just one takeaway to have for faculty, it would be the concept that the best teachers are reflective practitioners who continuously assess student learning and use the findings to inform improvement, to hone their craft. And how could we create a framework or a faculty development resource that helps faculty do that and makes the connection with assessment? One of my biggest inspirations for the Teaching Academy came from Stephen Brookfield in his 1995 book, Becoming a Critically Reflective Teacher. And Brookfield says that faculty can reframe their teaching by viewing their teaching and learning through their own autobiography as teachers and learners, through the lens of their students' eyes, through their colleagues' perception, and of course through the theoretical literature. So I recruited a few colleagues who are very respected longtime faculty leaders at York College of Pennsylvania, Dr. Perry Druin and Dr. Pat Poet, and we came up with the Teaching Academy. The framework is the same regardless of the topic or the theme, but this lends itself to many different topics and themes. So first I'll tell you a few of the topics we picked, and then I'll explain the framework to you. Our most popular topic was learner-centered teaching, and that's because it was probably something that any faculty member in any discipline at any stage of their career could identify with. But we also tried to meet the needs of specific cohorts of faculty. For example, we ran a teaching academy for teaching first-year students for faculty of the freshman seminar course. We ran a teaching academy, Teaching with Technology, for faculty who were looking to teach blended or online courses. We ran teaching academies for new faculty and part-time faculty. And so as an example of what we would do to prepare for these specific topics, for the faculty who are teaching first-year students, for example, Pat and Perry and I would meet with the director of the freshman seminar program. We would go over their outcomes assessment data with them and talk about what the biggest needs are for those faculty and to improve the student learning, to design the topics and so on. Then we would be able to attract those faculty to be in the Teaching Academy. The framework starts before the semester begins, about at least 1 month. We would have 3 sessions, kickoff sessions. It would run throughout the semester, and it would wrap up about a month after the semester ends. But even before the first session, the faculty who participated were prompted to write a "This I Believe" essay, where they would look at their own beliefs about teaching and learning and how they developed for themselves as learners and teachers. They would post this on a discussion board. We had a LMS course, and they would begin responding to each other even before they met in person. During the first session, the faculty would follow a protocol, a small group discussion protocol, where they would hone down the focus of what it is that they were trying to improve. And it would have to be around a student learning outcome. And of course, we were able to already know what their biggest challenges were. And they would have to think about, what kind of baseline assessment have they had in the past, so we could maybe have a comparison as well. And then they were sent away again with homework, and the homework was to investigate the literature, the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning literature, and I'm sure also talk with their colleagues and even just peruse the internet for evidence-based best practices. And they were to select one. It didn't necessarily have to be the one that they were going to implement, but something that they wanted to learn more about. And we gave them a template. They made a poster. And so every one of them had a poster on a topic or a teaching strategy, and then they walked around. We had this gallery walk of ideas where they talked with each other about all of these different evidence-based best practices to consider. And most of them had the same challenges, so this worked out pretty well that they would have many ideas to address the same challenge. After the gallery walk of ideas, they were prompted to sit down and write a reflection and to really start honing in and figuring out which teaching strategy might they try for their course coming up. And then they were sent away again with more homework, and that was to develop the materials for the course, to develop the assignment sheets, the learning activities, and to build the assessment in with the rubrics. And again, we had them on an electronic discussion board. We paired them up. They gave each other peer review and feedback to help hone the idea. They came back for the third kickoff session. This is the last one before the semester begins, and they are critiqued one more time as they present their idea and develop it. They're also prompted at this time to build in student feedback throughout the semester, not to wait for those end of the semester evaluations. Things like anonymous surveys and Moodle and small group instructional diagnoses. We had check-in sessions with them throughout the semester where we helped them with things that weren't going well and celebrated what was going well and crowdsourced ideas, planned visits to each other's classes. At the end of the semester, they assessed their students' learning, and they had to do what we called a final reflection, where they were prompted to answer 3 questions. The first question was, how did your project evolve over time as you got feedback from your colleagues, from your students, and of course as you were looking at the literature? The second question or prompt was, how did this impact your students' learning? What would you do the same? What would you do differently next time? And then the third question was about their own learning. What impact did the Academy have on their own beliefs about teaching and learning? What did they learn? Those who completed the reflection earned their certificate, their Teaching Academy certificate. And we had a big ceremony during our academic senate where the full-time faculty and all the full-time administrators were there, and the president, that's our president, Dr. Gunter Smith, and provost gave out the certificates. We had a hard copy program that described all the projects that we handed out. The faculty got frames for their certificates, and they were rather proud, as you can see, and they display them in their offices. The artifacts from the Teaching Academy are very useful for their promotion and tenure process, especially the reflections. And for the part-time faculty, we haven't done this yet, but I'm hoping, to work out a little merit pay raise or a stipend for participating in the Academy. And most of the faculty who participate in the Academy go on then to become presenters at our faculty development events that we still continue to have. As a result, we've run the Academy now for 2 years, anywhere from 2 to 3 cohorts a year. 67 faculty have graduated, that is, they completed their final reflection. We've had more participants, and many of the events that we held, more faculty participated in, even if they weren't in the cohort. So we do know that over 100 faculty have tested new teaching strategies, new to them but evidence-based, and assessed them. And over 1,000 students have learned more as a result. Now, this is not to say, I would say the methodology, we did our best to say that it was value added. Most of the changes that took place were more scaffolding, more formative feedback, more explicit directions, that kind of thing, a lot of focus on that particular outcome. So they did see improvement in the learning of that outcome. So that's the Teaching Academy.
Questions? Jody?
Sorry to always be the first. Is this a model that you think could be expanded to include other colleges, other campuses, sort of a system-wide kind of teaching academy model?
I hope. I think the framework is pretty solid, and I think it's pretty adaptable. I also think it could be adapted to more course level or program level assessment, with the cohorts working more closely together rather than individuals. Yeah.
Cindy, I like where you were going at the end, where you started to talk about the evidence of over 1,000 students have learned more as a result, and starting to think a little bit more about how do you aggregate these changes to tell a story that really reflects the changes that have been made at your institution and then what resulted from that. And I wonder if you've gone down that road to think more about kind of the deriving meta themes, or
Right.
kind of
Yeah. Well, one thing I regret is I didn't get an IRB from the faculty who participated. So only the aggregated information can be shared publicly, and I think we'd like to go a little further than that and have the stories. The faculty themselves are encouraged to do their own scholarship of teaching and learning and get their own IRBs. We can tell stories about specific outcomes, particularly those that we see patterns, the writing or communication outcome, the critical thinking outcome. We could aggregate that outcome, and particularly for that first year seminar cohort.
Thank you so much, Cindy. That was great.
You.